picks, because we generally don't see King of Masks play Gladiator. Normally he's really good in the Tactician role. He can get the Tactician bonus pretty much always because his the tentacle ability that he has is really long range, and it also makes sure it targets a Shaper before it targets anything else, as long as a Shaper's within its range. So he's going to be able to proc the Tactician bonus very well, really good source of income for him, and he's just got so much utility that he can make Tactician work. He can secure kills for his Gladiator, and he can also make sure that people don't try to kill the Gladiator too much, because he's got a decent amount of disengage as well. If he dashes and then uses his eggs, he gets a fear. An AoE fear, so that's really powerful if anyone were to try to gank him or engage on whichever Gladiator they decide to choose. So I think overall their last two picks are going to be Gladiators, and we're going to see Cog in jungle.
Yep. As the other tactician, we have the very, very strong and very, very dangerous Renzo, who people forget exactly how effective Renzo can be. He's got a guaranteed stun on his E. He has a very strong knockup. He's got a healing shield. So that's a lot of very strong utility. It's also probably one of the strongest pick spells in the game, just like you're stunned. Nobody else has that right now. No one else has your, like, Taric Dazzle. Used to be very, very strong in League of Legends because it was just a guaranteed stun. There was nothing you could do about it. It was going to follow you. Renzo has the same potential. It also allows him to harass very, very strong in lane. It can irritate AD carries a lot, messing up their farm. It can even slow down, it's very strong for slowing down mages. A lot of the mages in this game aren't particularly mobile outside of maybe one skill, and once that's down, they're fairly vulnerable unless they've picked up Blink or another escape summoner. And then Koggin, who is just like, I am Koggin, I clear. That is what Koggin does. Basically. I am Koggin, I will clear. He's got the fastest clearing game still, I believe. I don't think anybody can outspeed him yet.
Basco's come close.
Basco's are close.
Quite Koggin levels.
No, because Koggin also gets additional damage for every sand stack he has when he Qs someone. When he uses his Q, which is an AoE damage around him, he gets increased damage. I think it's about 10 at level 1. I don't know if it scales. I can't remember. Every time he uses the ability. So that just allows him to exponentially clear just faster and faster and faster. On the other side... For FDAT, they're going to pick up Nisa and Zeri next. Now, Zeri is definitely the odd one out in these picks so far. Nisa, very strong AD carry all around. She's got her own haste bonus, which is going to allow her to keep spamming auto attacks, which is a very strong steroid that as we like to call it, in any game, and especially Dawngate, if you consider that most AD carries don't really have much of a steroid. If you think about, say, what's her name? Michaela, she doesn't have a really big steroid. She has extra damage on 3 attacks. That's fairly good. It procs on crits as well, so that's pretty good. But it's not Nisa level. It's not to the point where she gets free attack speed, free movement speed, free a lot of things really, and she's also got a pretty good kit for bullying in the early game with the branching boomerang. And on the other side, or sorry, not on the other side, but on the other hand, we also have Zeri. I feel like Zeri is going to be more of an early game pick for them. Zeri's late game consists of giving other people your stats. Unless you build damage Zeri. Unless you are damage Zeri, in which the Chaos Potency build, which I would suggest not running as often, and I don't think that they're going to. I actually think I know how this Zeri is going to be built, after watching a couple of people stream.
Doesn't do as much
it used to be
as
damage.
Any other tactician. It used to be. Yes,
it used to be destructive.
They ended up nerfing Chaos.
This is true.
They nerfed a bunch of items that were really good on her, and so now she can't be an instant burst shaper anymore. The fact that she can instant cast a silence is really good, much like Soraka. If any of you have played League of Legends, she's got the instant cast silence, which is very strong, especially again in lane. And if she uses it right in teamfights, that could also be very strong, but I'm really curious to see how that pick will work. And now on the other side, BOB is going to pick up Varian and Amaranth.
Wow, those really, really fast picks. So Varian, Amaranth. Varian, very strong AD carry, highly mobile, similar to playing Ezreal out of League of Legends. He's got really strong damage. He's got a lot of good bullying early damage because that Celerity Shell will pierce through everything. It gives him a huge boost, and I think there's a little bit of video lag out. I'm actually going to pause for just a second, guys. We're at 10 seconds into game, and I think that there's an editing snafu with Sheebs' side of the video. So
you're just gonna wait till Sheebs gets 10 seconds into game.
Yep.
And pause it there.
Exactly what I'm gonna do. I think I got offset by. I knew there were a couple of small. Okay, I have it set to 9 seconds in, so I'm gonna start Tolson 3, 2, 1, and then start. No, I did it wrong. Okay, I'm gonna start Sheebs, who will go out to 13 seconds, and boom. Now we're synced and should be good to go. So let me know when you're synced out. Until then, I will handle everything solo. So we are into game. We have BOB down on the bottom side, F that up on the top side. So it was Spirit. It was Mortal is blue, Spirit is red. And we have a double. We have both teams heading up towards the top side of the map. FDAT has decided to move all the way around the back side of near the top side money pigs, whereas BOB is sneaking through the lane bushes. 5-man invades, both going for the opposite side, but they do see the Nisa squirrel. That is going to alert them that they have made their way, or at least Nisa has, into their side of the jungle, and now BOB is setting up to reset the engage. We have FDAT coming over the side. They have to be very, very careful about this positioning. Oh man, I don't know who's gonna face check it first. Looks like McScragg's gonna walk forward, is gonna walk right into the bush, and it's gonna be a lot of damage down on McScragg. They are gonna pop out a tailwind. He's taking a lot of damage. Sheebs has eaten a fair bit of the front line, but had that Basco shield, and Sheebs is actually in the jungle this time. He's actually switched back into jungle. I thought he was still playing lane, and that is gonna be advantage towards FDAT, who've managed to make a successful invade and should be taking away this resilience buff. Meanwhile, we have McScragg from BOB moving over to take his haste. There's still a lot of members from FDAT up in this top side of the jungle. I think BOB is going to have to be careful about what Basco might do to them coming out of that side of the jungle at about level 3.
Yeah, Basco has some really good early ganking power, and part of that comes from the fact that he has really good gap closer before he hits level 6. And when you see someone like Koggin, the only thing he can really do is run up to you but until he hits level 6, in which case he can hook you towards him. But outside of that, you can generally kite him out, you can dash away from him. Koggin has a little bit of extra counterplay there, but for Basco, his is sort of the opposite side. He doesn't really have too much CC until he hits level 6. He's got a little bit, but it's certainly not enough to basically bring him to the aspect of Koggin. But he does have gap closer, so it's a little bit of a different differential right there. We might be seeing an early ganks by Basco, but we'll have to see what he decides to do in the jungle, and also what he decides to go for. He went for his Q third, which I think this means he's going to go in.
In comes the tailwind. Basco still chasing forward, doesn't manage to Fiona for a fair bit of damage on the initial engage, but I did mention that level 3. That was probably one of Basco's best spiking times with both the resilience and the power. And I don't know if that many people know this, and I don't remember if Gassy talked about this, but I don't know what Basco's passive is right now. I'm assuming it's armor because he has the armor, but the fact that buffs will affect what your passive is on Basco really throws me off. So I'm assuming it would have been resilience, and that's why they went for such an aggressive play, because had he jumped on there, he would have had a lot of tank stats.
Yeah, armor really helps in early engagements, and part of that is because people's skills just don't do enough damage yet, and a lot of your damage in any early gank is going to come from auto attacks. Auto attacks are basically the standard for damage in the early game. King of Masks abilities right now are going to be doing about 200 or 300 each, but when they're on cooldown, he's left to auto attack. Same with everyone else, and on top of that, Ferris already relies on auto attacks fairly often, so going for... Oh, sorry, actually, Varion relies on auto attacks fairly often, so going for the early resilience pick is going to help out the most, but as you said, since buffs impact what Basco's passive gives him, it is sort of weird to think what he actually has.
Ooh, but so, down in the bot lane, we have a little bit of an engagement down to Mars, going very, very low. That Zeri is very, very low. I think, nope, instant blink away by the Emerald. McScragg going to be able to walk out of there. Basco jumped into the middle of the fight, and his resilience buff went down, so I think that has changed his stats, and that's the thing I want. That's the reason I brought it up, is because now Basco's ganking potential has changed. He's going to possibly, and I don't know what his numbers are right now, but he's he may get a different bonus on that passive instantly on top of the Renzo. Doesn't manage to get off the stun, has to move away because they were moving too far under the tower, and that'll be Sheebs backing off the engagement. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, we have a lot of pressure coming out of 50 Shades of Alpha. That Varion pushing up, pushing Ferris under the tower, and Ferris hasn't really been able to be his assassin-y self.
No, and part of that is also the early game of Ferris. Right now, all he's really going to be able to do is poke out with the little spinning hologram that he has. It's going to be doing a little bit of damage, and he's also got some auto attacks, but past that, he's not really going to be able to poke in at all against this top lane for BOB, because if he decides to go in and try to use anything within melee range, Calm is going to lock him down, no doubt. As we said before, King of Masks, he's got an AoE Fear if he dashes and uses his eggs, or not an AoE, but a single target snare if he dashes and uses his Q. So both of those can really disengage someone like Ferris if he decides to go in for some plays in terms of the melee range. But Ferris is going to be able to dash back to where he originally was, but he's going to be able to stay in the fight. He's going to be able to dash, do a little bit of damage, and then get back unless he wants to be snared or feared by King of Masks. So a little bit of a weird laning situation that Ferris and Viana are in, so I think for the most part their goal is just to make sure that they can get Ferris last hits and that they can keep Ferris alive with Viana's sustain.
Yeah, and we also see Tulse on that King of Masks is actually maxing eggs for sort of the AoE clear, so they just don't want to give Ferris the chance to sort of push up and roam. That would be pretty scary to have Ferris be roaming over on top of an Amaranth and a Renzo. Renzo has, again, a lot of good peel, but Amaranth really only has one escape, and if they decided to dive her, got her low enough, Ferris has a lot of really strong sticking potential. A little bit of damage there onto Viana. She's actually taken 3 basic attacks plus the Celerity Shell out of that Varion, so she's going to have to back up, either let some regen run or be able to land a Q. There's a Q that she's going to be able to get a little bit of health back. We see Sheebs has backed and gone for the early Pride? Pride. Yes, it's Pride. Pride goes into Glory, and we'll see if Sheebs can lock onto a target, because despite that very, very strong invade, he hasn't been able to make too much use out of the fact that he's still a buff away from Koggin, and I think Koggin has cleared up that level of disparity by just farming and farming. Yeah, they're both level 6.
And they are both level 6 now, so we might be seeing a little bit of extra jungle action happening, especially from Koggin. Koggin's level 6 is extremely strong, and once he full clears the jungle and hits level 6, that's when we usually see him start ganking. So McScrag actually going to pick up the power buff over here on the top side of the map, and he doesn't look like he's going to try to force a gank. Obviously, FDAT knows where he is, so he's just going to go for the buff steal. And if we look over on the other side of
there's the suppression down onto Tulse. He's taking a lot of damage. King of Mass has to dash away and blink away, but the ultimate out of Ferris is going to help them pick up first blood. And now looking onto this Viana, she's very, very low. Sheebs is going to go back in, thinks about Koggin doing what he can, slowing Sheebs down. Basco very, very escapable, should be able to walk away. The hook doesn't land, and that is going to be FDAT picking up first blood, a 1-for-0.
1-for-0 trade right there. Really good first blood pickup for FDAT, and part of that was just unexpected power that FDAT hit with the level 6 power spike. Ferris ended up doing a ton of damage in that engagement, something that BOB maybe didn't quite know he had. But at the same time, they did come out with a successful buff steal, so it's not exactly even. It's actually kind of far from even, but the buff steal is going to help BOB just sort of feel better about themselves so far, and it looks like we might see a little bit of contesting in this bot lane, because Sheebs is going to go try to return kill the power buff. But they know about it.
Koggin is there, instant jump over the wall by Sheebs. He's got to be careful. Koggin should be able to take away his own power buff. That was very, very risky. Sheeb's going to step back up into his jungle, pick up his resilience, and Koggin is starting to reach that scary point. He's got essentially 4 buffs on him. He was able to pick up and refresh that power buff. He's been able to make up the farm differential for the most part. Actually, with that steal, it should be about even now. So the advantage that Sheebs had is kind of starting to dwindle away. Ooh, up in the top lane, Ferris taking a lot of damage, gets hit by the eggs, and the snare is going to get pulled in by the Cog ultimate, and a little bit more damage. One more hit out of 50 Shades of Alpha will do the trick. He's going to step under the tower, takes a tower shot, but can't manage to land that hit. Ferris just very, very good at getting out of trouble.
Yeah, Ferris is a really, really mobile shaper, and at the same time, they still managed to make him go back, so he's not going to be able to get the extra Gladiator gold from last hitting, and he's not going to be able to get the experience from being near the minions as they die as well, so still a small engagement right there, and Sheeb's down in the bottom lane, seeing if he can make anything happen, just a couple of trades every now and again, but he's taking more damage than anyone else, and never quite a good sign as a jungler. Maybe didn't want to take that engagement there, but he's going to go back into his jungle and start clearing buffs once again, looking to go on to his power, or his haste next. And as we said, the buffs that Basco takes changes the dynamics for how his passive works.
I think he'll be fine for armor, though.
I think his armor is going to be the one that's going to increase with his passive because of the items he's bought.
Ooh, but down in that bot lane, we saw a nice pick away. They were able to grab the Zeri, so BOB evening up the kill score in a pretty quick fashion. 50 Shades of Alpha getting dived on. A little bit of damage down to Sheaves. He is going to get slowed down, doesn't get snared up or hooked back in. The ultimate came out of the Varion, and now we have a 5-man stack down in this bottom lane to possibly push the tower. Actually, no. 3 people backing. They don't want to pick the fight. All of their ultimates are actually down right now. So it's a very smart play out from BOB. They got the kill, they evened up the gold, and now they're just going to go home and spend it.
They're just going to go home at this point, and we keep talking, whenever we watch BOB, we talk about how well their rotations are, and that's really showing in this game as well, because they all quickly rotated down towards the bottom lane to make sure that they picked up that extra kill, and they got a little bit of extra sieging done on the tower as well, so it's a really good rotation on BOB, and they've always been really good at this. And on top of that, if you look at their team comp, it sort of lends itself to that as well. Renzo is really good for catching people out on the rotation because, as you said in the picks and bans phase, Renzo has the stun that's basically guaranteed to hit. Unless you dispel or blitz it, it's going to be hitting you. And ooh, a little bit of action down on the bottom side of the map. Zeri is going to make it out, but not without taking a ton of poke damage. And going back on the rotations, Amaranth, really, really good burst mage. She's got so much damage that she can also full to zero someone really well.
Oh, but 50 Shades of Alpha has been caught up by the Basco. You never want to be 1v1 against the Basco. In comes the Ferris ultimate plus the spin. Sheebs is going to pick up that kill, and that is going to be 2 kills over to the side, or another kill over to the side of F. That small advantage is going on in this game. No one's able to pick up, more than 1 kill off of a single play.
That's exactly what I'm seeing as well. And Tulsa at this point, let's see what items he's picked up. Prosperity, fairly standard item for any tactician, and that's going to give him a little bit of extra tankiness going into the mid game, and it's overall a really good item, especially on utility supports, because they're going to be wanting to stay alive. That's really one of the big goals of utility supports, is stay alive so that they can get their cooldowns back up and make sure that they can keep forcing CC.
Yep, so we see Sheeb stealing away these money pigs. A little bit of pressure down onto this top tower. Tulsa needs to be careful. I'd say probably everybody on. Man, come on, somebody tab so I can see roughly where we are in item build, so I can check the list. So we do have the item build list. We may just talk about that at the end of the game. Sheeb's taking his power. This time Koggin isn't over there to nab it away, and a little bit of pressure out of... ooh, actually down in the bottom lane, they are going to pick up the kill, and they instantly tab away from it. They pick up another kill onto the Zeri. Yes, another kill goes down onto Zeri. It was the Amaranth who picked up that one, and that was a quick kill and a quick tab away before I could get there.
Yeah, unfortunately, neither player was really watching that play down in the bot lane, so we weren't able to catch the action on camera. However, we talk about BOB's rotations again. All 4 of them, except for Tulsa, are down in the bottom lane. They were able to rotate over there, pick up a kill, and pick up a tower afterwards. And Tulsa's still sort of pushing the top lane as well. We'll see if he can force anyone else to go towards the top lane in terms of FDAT, but it looks like they're just going to back off. They want to play it safe because Para is about to hit that level, stage 2 Para phase, where people are going to start getting power buffs and health regen buffs when they take Para. So I think that shot was just an accident in terms of 50 Shades of Alpha shooting Para. And yeah, they're going to back off of it, but both teams want to make sure they're careful. They don't want to give up too much control, because if they do, then that gives a free Para over to the other team. And a stage 2 Para, as soon as it hits stage 2, is a pretty big power spike.
Yeah, we saw Ferris hopping over the wall trying to do a little bit of damage. We actually have a lot of members from FDAT over in this side of the jungle. They're currently securing a resilience buff. Tul's really the only member from his team still on this side of the map. Everyone else has backed and bought, and he's just sort of playing scout because Com's fairly good shaper for getting himself out of trouble. He's got a snare, he's got a fear, he's got a slow, he has a dash. There's really just a lot of ways for him to not be getting caught. And I think is the stream still running for you? I saw a click on the dashboard that told me that we'd popped offline.
Here, let me check. And I'm also getting people saying that I think they're talking about my mic, but
yeah, you're roboting a little bit.
Yeah, that's unfortunately nothing I can do about it. It's either our voice program or my internet. Either one of them is a possibility, considering that I don't know. My internet's.
I think you've evened out, and now the dashboard. You've evened out. The dashboard says everything is hunky dory. So we'll get back to the action as Mr. Ags is going on to Sheaves. He is just caught. He has popped his blitz and might be able to get away because he is Basco. But there's that instant stun. Come back in with the hook from Coggin, and that was just 4 members. Found one, and even though Basco is Basco, he couldn't get away. Actually, we have 50 Shades of Alpha coming in from the top side of this map. They did have vision. He is going to get suppressed by Beyond, but a nice Renzo ultimate is going to knock her away. She's going to tailwind out of the fight. Meanwhile, on the other side, the instant stun plus the wave and the bubble combo out of Amaranth. 50 Shades of Alpha picks up the kill onto the Viana, and that is going to be a turn straight onto that level 2 Parasite.
Yeah, and one thing I have to say is that FDAT's focus in that fight was a little bit off, actually. They tried too hard to catch out 50 Shades of Alpha on Varian, and sort of tunnel vision on the fact that the rest of BOB was on their way to rotate through that bush and basically sidewind their team. They weren't quite aware of that, and the fact that they spent so much effort, especially on Viana's blink suppression, to try to lock down 50 Shades of Alpha, that they didn't realize that the rest of BOB's team was going to cut them off and split them up as soon as that fight started. So FDAT should try a little bit harder to stay together, and their focus... Yes, I realize that focusing Varian is usually a really good idea, but if you look at the positioning of everyone else on BOB who is part of that fight, it wasn't really the best decision because it left them open to a flank, which is something you never want to do, especially in a team fight. And we haven't really talked about the comps themselves that much, but BOB has a really, really good pick comp. If they choose someone, that person is probably dead because we have a guaranteed stun as well as Amaranth's burst damage, and Varian also has a pretty high amount of burst damage as well. So they've got a comp that really lends itself to picking a target, bursting them down, and at the same time Coggin and Com can delay everyone else from trying to collapse on whoever they're trying to target, or they can also be added like secondary sources of CC that are going to be able to continue to lock down people and make sure that they win the rest of the fight.
Yeah, on the other side, FDAT has a strong comp for picking single targets once Ferris gets rolling. They do have a really nice team fight potential if they can pick sort of all over the place team fights. BOB is really good in corridors. They've got the Amaranth, they've got pretty much all the Amaranth spells, which are pretty much a straight line, Varian spells, which are a straight line, Coggin, who has his hook, Renzo, who has his ultimate. Those are really, really good in small places. If FDAT can pick fights in sort of more open areas, get them spread out, make use of the fact that Basco can move around and beat on everyone, Ferris can pop in and out of the fight and, pick a single target. That's where they're really going to be able to start to turn the game around. Meanwhile, in the bottom side, that's a nice calm ultimate into the Amaranth wave. The bubble was actually onto the knee side, but they should pick up the kill onto Viana. Actually, Ferris coming in from the side, doing a lot of damage, has the ultimate down on both targets, picks up 1 kill. Can he get the second? I think Amaranth is going to go down. She's looking for the dash. Actually, Ferris is going to miss one of those spells. He's going to get hit by the bubble. He needs to be careful. Amaranth may be able to do enough damage. Nope, comes in the Zarya ultimate. He walks up, basic attack, and that's going to be another kill going over to the side of FDAT.
Yeah, and FDAT doing a really good job of collapsing on the really heavy all-in attempt. I don't really have too many other words to talk about that with other than heavy from BOB, because they went full ham on getting that one pick, and they were sort of punished for it as well. In the meantime, the rest of BOB was pushing top lane, so they were able to get something out of it, but at the same time, losing those 2 kills was fairly important, especially considering one of them is Amaranth, who provides a lot of shaper pressure for BOB, because Amaranth, if Amaranth is on the map, that's a lot of map pressure you get as well, because we can see how quickly she can burst someone down, even someone like Viana, who's got a lot of health. And so having that threat off of the map really helps FDAT feel a little bit more comfortable. They're going to be able to take Spirit Wells, and we already saw they took that bottom lane Spirit Well on the side of BOB, so plays like that is what's going to help FDAT get into the game. And as you said before, they want to be team fighting in open spaces where they have enough space to roam and where they don't get hit by all of the big AoE abilities of BOB, because if Amaranth's wave hits multiple people, that's way too much damage, and your team certainly does not want to be tanking that, and it's much easier to get hit by skills like that if you're in tight enclosed spaces. But BOB's forcing a fight at the Spirit Well, and we'll see if they're going to be able to get out into the open, or if they're going to try to, or if they're going to be clumped.
Oh, they may be clumping up here. Double tailwind, one out of each team. They should be able to get themselves a bit out of the fight. Shrek stepping very, very far forward. It gets a nice hook back in, and that is going to be two players going down. They're turning on. Can they pick up Sheebs? They will get Sheebs, and that is going to be 2 kills going over to the side. Actually, 3 kills going over to the side of BOB. They are now in a dangerous position. They're sneaking around the side of the turret. A nice chunk of damage is going to go down onto Tulse out of Ferris, but the Striders are here, and they should be able to start to pressure down onto this tower. Tulse is going to dash forward. He's going to get instantly silenced away. A nice fear combo. They are able to get the bubble down onto Ferris. He will be able to dash away, and it's actually going to be Zeri who's going to be the sacrificial lamb. She'll go down. 50 Shades of Alpha, adding another kill to his killing spree, and it looks like Koggin was chilling there with the Striders, beating on that tower. And that'll be another tower going over to the side of BOB. That is 4 kills, and that is a lot of Vim gain. They should be able to start to pressure onto these base turrets soon, or maybe just they're gonna back up and spend some money. Also, Parasite should be coming up soon. I don't know what the timer is on that, but it seems like they do, and there it is. Parasite should be able to come up, and this one should be pretty much free for the side of BOB.
And I would have liked to see a little bit more foresight on FDAT's part, because contesting that Spirit Well sort of it almost forces you into a bad position. The only way you could have known that is if you could think ahead of time and say, alright, this is going to end up putting us in a bad position, we shouldn't do it. But once you're already in that position, there's nothing you could do to save yourself from it. Because as we saw, Koggin's Blitz was able to make him position himself to the point where he could hook people in, and the entire force, the entire retreating force of FDAT ended up being clumped into those small corridors. And to be fair, small corridors are the only real way you can get to the Spirit Well. So contesting that Spirit Well was actually the biggest part of that play right there, and part of the reason why they weren't able to make anything happen, and the reason why they got multiple deaths on their team. So a little bit more foresight would have been cool to see on the side of FDAT, but they are by no means out of the game. They could certainly come back into the game at any time. They're going to have to play really carefully though, and as we said before, if they can force more picks like they had on Amaranth and King of Masks earlier, that really benefits them quite a bit. But they really just need to stop fighting fights in those small corridors in the jungle and start trying to take them in lane.
Yeah, no, open areas is where they will thrive. All the members of BOB moving towards this top side of the map. They're rotating over there. They're looking for the picks here, but there are some there's a couple of danger pings. I think, yep, there's the instant tailwind, but a nice blink forward by Calm. He's going to lock down the Viana. Ferris has come to the middle of the fight, but has eaten a bubble. It looks like Amaranth will go down. Nice pickup by the Ferris, and Viana's still alive. She's going to get the Zeri ultimate on her, and she's still bidding away a number of members. Is getting instantly stunned out by the Renzo, and that's going to be the kill going over to Tulse. So a 1-for-1. And at this point, that's pretty much in FDAT's favor. They can't, any kills they can get, any Vin they can get to sort of start spiking their carries a little further forward. And the kill went on to Ferris, which is exactly what they needed. So for the moment, not a bad situation. There is a Strider, actually 2 Striders coming up this wave. They may have to give up this tower and defend on the cores, but it looks like they're trying to go in. Sheeb's taking a little bit of damage, is going to get hit by that Pain. Nice Pain out of Calm is going to do a lot of damage. The hook is going to miss. Of Alpha is looking for his next kill. They're gonna get the stun down onto the Nisa. She'll get away, and a lot of damage coming out of the Ferris. He's able to burst a lot of them down, got off a nice spinning blades through a number of members, and they should be able to defend off, only losing that tower, and should be able to start farming up more Strider gold.
Guardian also did quite a bit of damage with that big minefield that it placed down, so those two things combined are going to force BOB out of the base, but it looks like they're going to continue to try to siege. They might be waiting to bait this out.
Yeah, but all the members of BOB are fairly low. Zeri sneaking around from the side bush is going to poke at them a little bit. They should still be waiting for Sheebs. He's up in about 8 seconds. Maybe they can get a pick as the BOB decides to retreat, although it looks like BOB is just going to get themselves out of trouble. Basco is going to come back up, and they're going to be backing for items. So at this point, we've got Tulse, he's rocking Prosperity, Pain, and Rage. I would say for the rest of his team at this point, they're probably about 3 items in. That means we've got... Oh, man, it moved. It moved. Where did it go? Here it is. We've got... Renzo, who's got Devotion, Freedom, Resolve, probably at about this point. Kogan, who's got Equilibrium, Rebirth, and Retribution. Varion, who's got... wait, that can't be right. Does Varion have a direct? No, Desire. Desire, Will, Dominance, Force, Aggression. So a lot of strong items out of the side of BOB right now. If that's going to need some time to farm back up.
They're really going to need quite a bit of time to farm back up as well, and part of what they need to do is make sure that they don't get caught out on the rotations again from BOB, and I think part of what BOB are going to try to do, they're going to try to push both lanes at the same time, and once they bring everyone's attention to one of the lanes, they're going to rotate towards the other lane, probably bot lane, to try to make sure that they take that tower. Windows Media Player is doing a very bad job of responding, so one of my screens is not doing so well, and the other one is lagging a bit, so my setup is currently freaking out. I don't know about yours, but I hope yours isn't, because yours is the one on stream.
We're golden.
Okay, so I'm just gonna watch BOB's perspective from here on out, because this is kind of
just remember, this may be the last cast we ever do this like this is the grand finale, I think, of us doing casts with my crazy 2 video setup. So we have pretty good.
Hoping it is.
We're hoping we get very soon, very soon. So FThat doing a good job of clearing out the Strider waves. Looks like Sheebs, he wants to pick a bit of a fight. Is going to get stunned out. Tulse coming in. They do put the Zeri ultimate down on him, so he's very tanky. And now he should be able to jump on top of the Amaranth. Nice wave out of Amaranth. Is going to knock a number of targets up, and that is so much damage. 50 Shades of Alpha starting to bring down targets. The Viana ultimate is down to Tulse, but it doesn't really matter. The stun comes out of Kogan. They should be able to instantly push down onto this tower. 50 Shades of Alpha breaks forward. Picks up a double kill. I don't think he's going to be able to get on top of that Zeri. She should get away. Now there's the slow and the snare. Can 50 Shades of Alpha pick it up? It's actually going to be Tulse who gets that one. They give that over, and that is going to be a 5-man wipe, and I believe that is GG, as, yep, there comes the surrender vote, and that is going to be game 1 going over to the side of BOB in this best of 3, which was the Sick Note Invitational Finals.
Yeah, and FThat did a good job of making sure that they fight in those open spaces in that last team fight, but a couple of problems were that they didn't fight underneath the tower to add that little bit of extra damage, and they also weren't able to keep Amaranth off of their squishies. As we saw, Amaranth was able to dive right into the back line and use a big wave, and that was going to give them all the power they needed, and now we might have to resync, because...
We'll see. We'll see if we have to resync.
I really want to resync.
Alright,
well,
so...
I'm out of sync as well, even on the BOB
videos, so... I think I'm still synced, so...
Give me timestamps.
We've got 37 for Tulse is about where I am.
Alright. Tell me that hits 37:15.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So you should...
Man, you tricked me. You did 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah. Sorry. So that one should be nice and lined up, and we are into the gloriousness that is the new picks and bans at a MOBA champion. Again, thank you guys for putting that together. It makes my soul hurt a lot less. First ban out of the Spirit side, which this time is going to be FThat, is wait. Did it swap? Did it swap? Yes. Okay, so first ban out of the Spirit side, which is BOB, I think. The system. It was a godsend, and then it was confusing, but we do have Surreal, which we saw banned out the first time.
Tulse is BOB. If you see his camera, it's BOB. And if you see Sheep's camera, it's FDAT.
Well, no, but that's not the issue. It's which side is which side. But
I'm pretty sure they switched.
yeah, they should have switched. Also, there's
Tulsa's on the spirit side now. So.
There's a nice section of blackout in Tulsa's video, which it's just Tulsa's video.
Oh,
being
good.
Tulsa's
I was hoping
video.
that wasn't just me.
No, that was in.
I was like, God, no. Why did my video programs keep crashing?
No, that was in Tulsa's video. We'll see whether or not it. I don't actually remember whether or not it persists for too much longer. But we do have on the other side Sheep's view, and there's going to be the Mina ban. So a ban we saw before, and that instant Dibs pick. And we talked about Dibs last week during our cast. We talked about Dibs in our last episode of At What Cost. There is the Dibs pick. How's it?
I'm sorry. Yeah,
care to talk about Dibs?
I was making sure that everything was fine on my end in terms of all the video stuff. And I have my laptop here so I can see the chat as well. It's weird. So the Dibs pick. Okay, so we're going to see a lot of really heavy map pressure from Dibs, as we talked about during our last. Was it our last cast? No, it was.
We talked about it in the last cast.
The same game for our last cast and our last At What Cost episode.
Indeed.
Alright, so Dibs, as we talked about there, has a lot of big map pressure because he's got sort of a Twisted Fate-esque ult if his ultimate was still global. Basically, Dibs can be anywhere on the map within a couple of seconds using his ultimate, and on top of that, whenever he uses his ultimate, everyone around him gets a really big power spike. They get a lot of, I think it's 30 extra power, 30, 35, 45.
It's 25, 35, 45.
Alright, 25, 35, 45 power, and that's really substantial in a lot of these team fights. So, we saw him play that before, but basically what he's going to end up doing is he's going to be harassing a spirit well or pushing a lane alone while the rest of his team pushes as a 4-man, and then whenever a team fight actually breaks out, he's going to be using his ultimate to get into the fight and to give everyone else on his team that big power buff. That's really going to be helping turn any fights that they get into. Now on the other side we see a Renzo pick. We saw last game how strong Renzo was. He was able to make picks all around the map with that guaranteed stun of his, and on top of that, his ultimate's really good at displacing multiple members of a team.
Yep, and the next pick coming out of Mortal Side, which is FDAT, they've gone with Moya, one of the strongest junglers, and still considered one of the strongest. People still say, at top tier, there's a lot of people who are saying that he's bar none, stronger than Basco. And, I don't jungle, I can't comment, but I've heard that him and Kagan are still two of the strongest jungle picks. Additionally, you have Basco, who is very, very strong. Kagan, very, very strong. They wanted to take it away. They picked Moya. They banned Kagan. They want to try and force BOB onto one of the other possible junglers, possibly Salis,
Petrus comes to mind.
Salis, Petrus, who are two of the other very, very strong engagers. And there's also that Basco hype. King of Masks picked over by BOB. Tulsa really loves King of Masks. If you guys ever watch him stream, which you should, he plays a lot of King of Masks. He always maxes eggs, and he's a very, very strong and technical player on that Shaper, and it allows him to make use of the fact that King of Masks is probably the strongest control mage in the game. He has the greatest ability to kite, do CC, and damage all at the same time, and sort of just disrupt the team fight over and over and over and over. Amaranth being the second ban out of BOB's side, so they wanted to get rid of that strong engage and burst potential.
And as a little bit of reminder, I am Azaraki Dragon. He is the source, and we're bringing you the Signote Invitational 5, I'm sure it's 5, finals between FDAT and BOB. So far, no other picks have been made, but the Amaranth ban, we saw Amaranth last game, super, super powerful. In terms of what the rest of the picks are going to be, I feel like BOB is going to continue with this sort of high mobility setup that they have, because Dibs and King of Masks both have really high mobility, they both have a lot of utility, so they still need to pick their gladiators and their jungler. Petrus and Salis both come to mind. Both are really mobile junglers, and they both can be a bruiser wherever they want. They can peel, they can dive the backline. They're really all-around good junglers that they can use, especially since Kagen and Moya are both off of the table. Now we also see Ferris taken off the table. Ferris is has been picked by FDAT. So in terms of their gladiators, BOB, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a Varion again. Varion was able to. Varion was a good force. He does quite a bit of damage over time, and he's also got quite a bit of mobility as well. So, ooh, the Mara pick, Mara and Basco actually. So, this is probably a Gladiator Calm then, or Gladiator Mara. I guess that's
I'm not quite sure. Additional side note: there's all this freaking out in the chat about us calling Moya a he. We know that Moya is a girl, but there's
Wait,
just
who said that?
There's a bunch of people freaking out in the chat about it. I may have said Moya was a he, but you guys have to consider we're constantly switching back between the names of players who all of these players in the current match are male, and the names of characters, and it's always this fun little toss up between who and what you say when you're talking about characters in MOBAs and the people playing them. So I apologize for my mistake there. Back to the cast, the double bruiser, and I think you may be right. It may be the Gladiator Calm. I feel like Tactician Calm. I like Tactician Calm better. He has more time to harass. He doesn't have to focus on farming, which has a lot of value to it. On the other side, I can't really say whether or not farming Mara is better. There's been a lot of people who've run it. It used to be very, very strong. But just having those two bruisers, that's a lot of CC. That's a lot of frontline. That's a lot of very strong engage. The peel isn't as strong. The peel is a lot trickier. You need Mara like ultimate to really make the peel happen. There's the Varion pick that you were talking about. So that's another strong choice to be picked over on the side of BOB.
Why does Tulsa keep getting in a game before Sheebs?
I don't know, but I actually have Tulsa set to pause to 17 seconds, specifically because of it.
Automatically. Okay, cool.
I went in and paused that at 17 seconds, and now we have another itty bitty black screen moment. I think this is just something going on with the editing, like back when we used to have that problem.